All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're tackling personal finance, but not the usual spreadsheets and interest rates.
Yeah.
We're going deep on the psychology of money.
Oh, I like that. Going deep.
We're joined by, well, Morgan Housel's book, The Psychology of Money, is joining us, really. And it's full of these insightful, sometimes surprising looks at how we behave with money. Ready to have your mind blown a little?
I'm always up for that. Hit me.
Okay, so Housel argues that being good with money, it isn't about being a math whiz. It's about understanding your own psychology around money.
That's fascinating, right? Because we often assume it's all about smarts and strategy, picking the right stocks, that sort of thing.
Yeah, but Housel flips the script. He's all about self-awareness, emotional intelligence even, when it comes to our finances. He even starts the book with this great anecdote about a tech millionaire. Super smart guy, obviously, understands complex algorithms, but
But his relationship with money was a different story, huh?
totally. This guy was famous, or maybe infamous is more like it, for his extravagant tipping. Think like dropping thousands at restaurants.
Oh, wow. Okay. I mean, generous, I guess.
You'd think. But then there's the story of him chucking $5,000 at a restaurant manager because of a broken lamp.
Oh, no. That's something else.
Right. So mixed messages much. And it turns out this wasn't just him being eccentric. His financial life, despite his brilliance in tech, well, it went downhill.
So it's not just about understanding how money works in theory, it's about how we interact with it, our own personal biases and behaviors.
Exactly. And Housel isn't saying, don't overspend. It's deeper than that. He's saying our financial success, it really hinges on mastering our own psychology.
Which is rarely talked about, let alone taught.
Totally. And get this, it's not always the high rollers who get it right either. Housel talks about this guy, Ronald Reed. Frugal guy. Worked as a janitor, pumped gas on the side. A real blue collar.
Okay, yeah. Hard worker, I imagine.
Absolutely. You'd never guess it. But when he passed away, his estate was worth $8 million.
Whoa, 8 million. What was his secret?
Well, that's where this idea of our mental model of money comes in.
Ah, okay. Break that down for me. Mental model. So, like, how we view money in our minds.
Exactly. Think of it like your internal operating system for finances. It's shaped by your childhood, your economic environment growing up, even how your parents viewed money.
Interesting. So, someone like Ronald Reed, living through the Great Depression.
Frugality and long-term thinking were practically ingrained in him, shaped his behavior for decades.
Wow. So, our personal financial origin story is more important than we realize.
Totally. And here's another factor we often overlook, and Housel brings this up. Luck. He uses the example of Bill Gates, Microsoft.
Yeah, sure. Classic self-made billionaire story. What about it?
Okay, but did you know a huge part of his success traces back to one lucky break?
Really? I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So Gates High School, it just happened to have one of the first commercially available mini computers.
Wow. In high school, that's unheard of, back then especially.
Right, this early exposure to cutting-edge tech, it gave him a massive head start. Even Gates admits that.
So even for someone as brilliant as Gates, luck played a role.
Huge role. It highlights this idea that success, it's rarely a solo act. It's a combo of things, some we control, some we don't, like luck.
And that's where things get really interesting, because if luck can propel us forward, then risk has the potential to, well, really throw us off course, even when we're doing everything right.
Yeah, and Housel, he tells this heartbreaking story about Bill Gates' best friend, Kent Evans.
Oh, right. I think I remember this one. Wasn't he considered just as brilliant as Gates?
That's the thing, he was. Just as driven, just as much potential. But tragically, Evans died young, a mountain climbing accident.
Oh, wow, that's awful. And a stark reminder that...
That even with all the talent, all the hard work, sometimes life throws a curveball.
Absolutely. Risk is always there, and we can't predict it.
So it's not just about going for it. It's about not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
Right. Not pinning all your hopes on one thing.
Exactly. Diversifying, hedging your bets, because as much as we like to think we have control.
Sometimes it's just not the case.
Exactly.
It really makes you think about humility, gratitude, acknowledging that luck plays a role, good or bad.
It does. It helps keep things in perspective, both when things are going great and when they're tough. And, this awareness of luck and risk, it's not just about the past.
Oh, how so?
Well, it helps us make better decisions now. It encourages us to think long term, not just chase the next big thing.
Okay, so like not betting the farm on one hand of cards, as they say.
Exactly.
Okay, but speaking of risky bets, Housel also talks about this guy, Rajat Gupta. He was managing director at McKinsey & Company.
Wow, McKinsey. That's
top of the food chain, right? He was on the boards of Goldman Sachs, Procter & Gamble. This guy had it all, but then insider trading scandal. Threw it all away.
I remember that. Why risk it all when you're already at the top?
Right. And that's exactly what House calls the never-ending game of enough. This guy was already incredibly wealthy, but it was like
It was never enough.
never enough. Always chasing the next win, the next zero in the bank account.
It's like you reach one goal and immediately you're on to the next bigger thing. Always striving, never satisfied.
Totally. And it made me think of that saying, money can't buy happiness.
Right, because happiness from those kinds of wins,
It's fleeting.
exactly, it fades. You get used to it. Hedonic adaptation, it's called.
So what's the answer then? If more money doesn't equal more happiness long term,
Well, Housel says it's about defining what enough looks like for you. Because if you don't,
you become a slave to that cycle of always wanting more.
exactly, like a hamster on a wheel, always running but going nowhere. So how do we escape that? Well, it starts with a shift in perspective, understanding that true wealth isn't just about stuff, it's about aligning your money with your values, finding contentment in what you have.
Okay, I'm all for contentment, but how do we get there?
Well, Housel talks about the power of compounding, and he uses this fascinating example of hard drive storage. So from 1950 to 1990, storage capacity increased by a few hundred megabytes.
Okay, so not insignificant,
But then, get this, from 1990 to today, it exploded, over 100 million megabytes.
wow, that's insane exponential growth. But how's that related to, being content?
Because compounding isn't just about money growing in the bank. It's about the small, consistent actions we take. Like that snowball effect. It builds and builds over time.
So it's about playing the long game, not falling for those get-rich-quick schemes.
Exactly. It's about slow, steady progress, like the tortoise and the hare. Right. Slow and steady wins the race.
Okay, so instead of trying to keep up with the Joneses, it's more about building a solid foundation.
Exactly, brick by brick. And that brings us to what I think is one of the most valuable returns on that investment.
That's that.
Freedom.
Freedom. Yeah, that's what we all want, right? To not be chained to a job we hate or worry about every penny.
Exactly. House calls it the freedom dividend, like a bonus for making smart money choices.
I like that, the freedom dividend. But it's not just about having a big bank account, right?
Mhm.
It's about what that allows you to do.
Right. It's about options. Housel talks about this study, found that while income matters, what really drives happiness is our sense of control over our lives.
Makes sense.
Hey.
It's not about being rich. It's about feeling in charge of your own destiny.
Exactly. When you're financially secure, you have more choices. You're not trapped by circumstances. You can take risks, pursue passions, spend time how you want. That's powerful.
It is. Like, money can't buy happiness directly, but it can buy you freedom. And that freedom, that can lead to a more fulfilling life, less stress, more joy.
Exactly that. It's not just avoiding bad stuff. It's about opening up possibilities. Travel, time with loved ones, pursuing dreams you put on hold. That's the freedom dividend.
I love that. So we've covered a lot. Behavior, luck, risk, that never enough trap, the long game of compounding.
And of course, the freedom dividend, the ultimate goal.
Right. So what are some things people can take away from Housel's book? Things they can apply to their own lives starting today?
I'd say one of the biggest is humility and forgiveness. We have to remember both success and failure are often influenced by things outside our control.
So acknowledging the role of luck, good or bad, giving ourselves a break when things don't go perfectly.
That's it. We're not always in the driver's seat, and that's okay. And when things are good, don't get cocky. Those good times, they might not last forever, you know?
Stay humble, stay focused, and remember, life has its ups and downs, just like the stock market. Anything else?
Yeah. Housel talks about this idea of defining your game. It's so easy to compare ourselves to others, especially these days with social media.
Oh, tell me about it. Everyone online seems to be living their best financial life while I'm just trying to make rent.
Right. But as Housel says, we're rarely seeing the full picture. Maybe they're in debt or miserable, we don't know. Don't judge a book by its cover, right?
Or a bank account by their Instagram feed. It's about what truly matters to you, not keeping up with some imaginary standard.
Exactly. Which brings me to my favorite Houselism. Respect the mess.
Respect the mess. Love that. What does that mean exactly?
Well, it means accepting that personal finance is personal. There's no one right way to do it. We all have different goals, values, comfort levels with risk.
It's like those personality tests, right? No right answer, just figuring out what works for you.
That's it. So don't compare yourself to others. Don't aim for perfection. Just focus on your own path. Make choices that feel right for you and give yourself grace when things go sideways.
Love that. Respect the mess, focus on your journey, give yourself grace. Great advice. Well, on that note, I want to leave our listeners with this. Think about your own relationship with money. What experiences shaped it? What beliefs do you hold on to? And how can understanding those things help you make better, more fulfilling decisions? It's a journey, for sure, but the rewards are worth it.